it's going to be between the two Americans. Wesley leading the competition. Fabi not playing very well in this competition. And we see E2, E3, a Rubinstein French, something that Wesley has been playing throughout the Grand Chess Tour.
And Wesley didn't go for any E4, E5, let's make a draw kind of opening.
No.
It looks like he wants to have some dynamism in the position. We'll see. This knight takes. His position is not super exciting at the moment, but there is an isolated pawn on D5 he can count on. We see black has that pawn in the middle of the board and has no pawns next to it. So that will be what Wesley hopes will bring him some advantage as this game continues. Fabi will look to liquidate this pawn, but at the moment, yes, it doesn't look to do.
Yeah, not only that, the problem from Black's point of view is that after A2, A3, bishop takes C3, bishop takes C3, Black is compelled to give up the bishop, and he doesn't get anything in return, no double pawns, that oftentimes happens in him. So, and he's finding
there it is.
A3 right away. I didn't know whether or not Wesley wanted to include castle. The problem with A2, A3 is that bishop takes F3 may require that you can't recapture with the pawn. This would be a kind of a funny looking Chigorin
I like
type
this
of
position for white.
Yeah, that's
nice. It's unbalanced pawn structure, the two bishops and a rook on the G line.
Is this what's happening? Oh my
That's
goodness.
exactly what's happening.
Okay.
Okay, the big question though is the move D4 in my mind. D4, if you just let this move happen, then Black will have easy compensation for this shattered pawn structure.
Yeah, but then you prompt me with the question, how do I stop it? I don't
Just
know if
castle.
I do. So let's imagine D4, I take. For you to justify your sacrifice, we get some really ugly pawn structure. Okay, it's a pawn. This bishop is going to come to the C4 square. I mean, the knight could post up on F4. I agree. The knight on its own.
Rook C8 could be played, or I guess Rook D8 could be played first. The other rook to cause you to have to defend the position first. And now Rook to C8, stopping your bishop C4, stopping your rook from going to the C line.
I can still.
I guess you can still do it.
There's a back rank
Because of the back rank issue. That does present one small problem. Yeah, I guess it would be a case. Well, he started with Rook C8 first, and after Queen to A4, then he played the move D4. So one move later by Fabi, he started with Rook to C8, and after Queen A4, looking to put a rook on D1 and shutting down the D4 concept, Fabi said, now we're going to play it, and let's see what happens. Now, that still could allow the move rook to D1, and you got to wonder,
all the way.
right, and then you're threatening to play bishop takes and rook takes, not create any issue in your structure. Even queen takes will be possible, probably rook takes for tempo. What is this about, Yas? Is this something that's good for Fabi, allowing rook to D1?
No, it can't possibly be good for Fabi. It looks like he's mistimed his D5, D4, and Wesley is sitting there saying, Fabi, sure, I can't just play rook D1 here? I don't know, is there knight D5? I don't think there's compensation enough after bishop takes D4, so rook A D1 looks like a very good move to me.
And Fabi has paused, or what would have been an obvious looking move, rook A to D1, and has played queen to B6, which does allow some counterplay after this move. Bishop takes B4, knight takes. Queen would have to take in order to defend the B pawn. But after a trade, the rook could end up on the C2 square, and he wins his pawn right back.
Well, yeah, that is true. But White will be dominating the two open files in the position, the C file as well as the D file. They'll have a majority on the king side. This is advantage of White. Is it good enough? So far we've seen Wesley, by the way, play some really wonderful technical games. Is it enough of an advantage for White? Well, let's just see.
Enough. You're saying enough to win the game.
I see it as a 2-result game.
But it's a 2-result game, no question about it.
That's
and
right.
so Wesley looks like he's going right for that line. takes, queen takes, and now it's up
You
to
saw
Fabi.
a little head shake there by Fabi. Fabi, he understands. He's a great technician himself. And it's not Fabi. He knows that he slipped and he's fallen into an unpleasant technical technique.
Yeah, there's the position you talked about. Yes, rook c2. We're all the way there now.
Yeah.
Bishop to d3 is the expectation. Rook takes, and rook c1. All predicted on the board right now as the two rooks are dominant. You know, it's for me, it's not the two rooks alone. It's really that knight on f6.
That's exactly right. The knight on f6 is being dominated. It's not on a good circuit. All the business squares where the knight can jump are covered. You'd much rather have the knight on e6. The other thing that's going on from White's perspective, he's going to post a rook on the 7.
It's posted. G6 played and posted king g7.
And then after a4 and bishop c4, that pawn on f7 is going to be remaining tender. Very, very tender for the rest of the game.
The big deal, though, is the knight again on f6. We're going to need e4, e5, right? I mean,
One day, that's going to be
f4, e5. That's going to be the plan you need. If you could get that plan rolling, that knight will have some issues, but it can go to h5 and look to get to the f4 square. So at some point, black will have to deal with this. Well, white does have that technical task. The knight sitting on f6 is a great defensive piece. Very hard for you to make any serious progress, although this last move does suggest a potential rook b4. Yes, okay, a4 first. And he's going to want to win that pawn eventually. What do you think about the endgame as the knight tries to reroute itself? What do you think about the endgame if you gave away the queen side, b5 and traded everything off? Is it a winning endgame?
Yeah, I think you lose it. I think that the problem is that this majority, it really depends on the knight. If the knight has a good square like e5, it's going to be work. If it's on a bad square like it is currently on e8, you're going to lose it. I've just been told, by the way, that in our two-horse race, the other horse has made a draw. Nepo, Richard Rapport draw. Now here what I'm doing is I'm playing h3 to cover the g4 square. I'm playing f4, and I'm bringing my king up to f3. I was going to suggest posting the bishop on c4 after I had conducted that operation. Why? Because I want to use f4, f5 as a kind of a battering ram in the near future. Bishop c4.
It's Tyson's move, b5, and he's going to be able to win the pawn, isn't he?
Yeah.
Take and then rook to b7. He actually started with rook to b7.
Yeah, that's
what is on Fabi's mind? It looks like Fabi is thinking, I can draw this position. That this was my question.
Yeah.
What happens if the pawns on the queen side disappear from the board? And they will right now. Takes, and now the choice: rook takes or bishop takes. Bishop takes is interesting, creating a potential pass pawn on the d4 square. I don't know.
I wouldn't want to. I'll take the rook on b5, and I'll play rook and bishop versus rook and knight. And again, I was thinking that I'd already have my king on f3 at this point, and I really, really want to get my rook to the 7th and to tie up my opponent. Now, this is a very intriguing decision, allowing counterplay. Yes, again, it's about this focus on this pawn. Now, if my pawn were on h3 and f4 at this point, I wouldn't have to worry about the consequences.
But yes, he did speed up the play, did Fabi, by playing b5 very quickly. He had seen that this opportunity existed, and now he's protecting the second rank, his second rank, the 7th rank, as far as White's concerned. So f7 is no longer a weakness, and White's going to have to figure out how to make this position dynamic. He's played h4, and Fabi has captured it. Now it's 3 against 2, so more and more trades, making this a more difficult technical task as it goes on. White's pawns are not in the greatest place. He's going to have to take this one. And he's starting to notice is Wesley that this is just not going to be easy. A knight's going to land on g6. But there is a rook a7, though, that Fabi has to worry about. And so is rook a right back.
Yeah, but this decision to allow 3 versus 1, I consider this h pawn as a pass pawn. It's strange decision. I would have guessed here. I love the rook on the 7th rank, and after king f6, I had assumed he was just simply going to play for e4.
Look at this last
e5
move.
check.
If rook takes on f2,
Rook takes e7.
and then rook takes a2,
Pardon me. And he didn't. That was a pawn.
What
But
was it?
now
What
is
was-
the opportunity that Wesley is gunning for.
E4.
E4.
e4 looks quite strong,
Well, he's
but he's
reaching
hesitating
for
on it.
rook.
Must be a reason.
It's amazing to me that he didn't play the move e3, e4 there. That looked like the perfect opportunity to get in that expansion.
By the way, I just checked with the engine, and rook takes f2 was dead equal.
That's what I'm thinking.
Rook takes f2 was just
Blundered the
equal,
pawn.
blundering the pawn, and Fabi did not capture that pawn, and now they're in this setup, and so it's very surprising by the players. Well, they do have the pressure of the ticking clock, but it's not so bad. Wesley has 50 seconds to Fabi's 107, but there was a pawn on f2 that was just simply hanging, and here comes e4 now. E4 and defending the knight, but on a passive square.
f5.
And he's played e5, daring the king to go up to f5, where you might get mated. And now everything's tied down. He should be able to bring the king up to e4, no?
Yes, absolutely. King f3.
Why not king f3, king e4 with f4 and f5? Well, f6 will be the next move. And bishop to b3. Can't he play f6? Well, I guess he won't care. f6 he'll just ignore it,
king f3.
and he'll have a pass pawn. So right now he's completely tied down. His rook can't move, his knight can't move. His king's the only piece that can really legitimately think about moving. This is terrible for. Well, why couldn't he play f5 on the line? Oh, f6 again.
Yeah. It's a really surprising move for me, this move, bishop e3. I would have played rook c7 and bishop c4 in an instant. Why rook c7? Because
This is now. Fabi is
this
allowed.
is very unpleasant.
Yes.
Very unpleasant.
No.
I don't like this 3 versus 1 ending at all. I'm afraid that f6 is a winner, because with the move f6, he just allowed this.
And here it comes. This endgame.
This is very strange. Rook check, Maurice, and f6.
Yep.
And I think it's just
And it's
winning.
over. No, that's dead. That's a dead rook and pawn ending. He's finished.
Yeah.
No question here. F6, and then you can easily go after this pawn.
Yeah. Now you go e6, e6. He could have played e6 right away.
And then, but here can't he play for rook e8 and rook e7? You
Yes,
just
he
can't
can.
stop it.
Well, you've got to move your rook down, but I think Wesley missed
An opportunity to play the move e6. Agreed.
Exactly. Now you have to go back to b7. There's no other
Charles can't begin checking. That's you're gonna run out. Oh, he's gonna bring his king to g6.
No.
Wait, king check. I don't see why he can't play king d4.
Well, you gotta go king g6 now, yeah.
Wow, now it
Well,
has become
king
problematic.
d6, let's go.
King d6 is the only real try, but king f5 is coming.
Well, wait a minute.
And
I
then
got
rook
f7.
rook f7, rook e, and no. Now Fabi has allowed this rook to get shelter and king down, and after
F check, I go rook d7, interposing. So king takes e5, king takes f7.
yep,
Have I
and
got
one
the
check.
setup?
But after king g,
Oh,
whoa, he's allowed a
Good
drawn
draw.
position.
Amazing.
These rook and pawns are nasty, and he missed his chance.
He sure did.
Wesley.
But let's